Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in today. This is the Bodega Cat Book Club Health Edition, and we are continuing our reading of Never Be Sick Again by Raymond Francis. And today we're going to start with chapter 3, and this will be part 1, because the chapters are kind of long, and I wanted to keep it short so that the information is digestible. Otherwise, we get into information overwhelm and our brain shuts down. That's just how our brain works. So anyways, I hope you're enjoying our reading so far. Okay, so here we go. Chapter 3, The New Theory of Health and Disease. And here again, he has his theory of one disease, which is cellular malfunction, 2 causes, deficiency and toxicity. And then 6 pathways: nutrition, toxins, psychological, physical, genetic, and medical. All right. The most basic weapons in the fight against disease are the most ignored by modern science. The numerous nutrients the cells of our bodies need. If our body cells are ailing, as they must be in disease, the chances are excellent that it is because they're being inadequately provisioned. Roger J. Williams, PhD, Nutrition Against Disease. Modern medicine believes that thousands of diseases exist, each with different causes and treatments. This belief has led to a system of medicine so complex and baffling that physicians resort to protocols that merely suppress symptoms. By suppressing symptoms rather than addressing causes, diseases remain chronic. In this chapter, you will learn a new approach. This new theory of health and disease is a model that recognizes not thousands of diseases, but only one disease, along with only 2 causes of disease. This simple model of disease is so powerful that it can enable you to go beyond health as you have experienced it and never be sick again. One disease, 2 causes, 6 pathways. A real understanding of the relationship between health and disease cannot be achieved through knowledge of germs. Disease cannot, sorry, let's start over. A real understanding of the relationship between health and disease cannot be achieved through knowledge of germs, inherited genes, medicines, surgery, or any of the many diseases that make people sick. Keeping up with these subjects is complex and doesn't really help people to take care of themselves. What we need right now are solutions for good health. The time is ripe to simplify. Understand what your cells need, how they work, and what causes them to malfunction. Your cells are what make your life possible. There is only one disease: malfunctioning cells. When cells malfunction, the body is no longer able to maintain homeostasis, balance, by regulating and repairing itself. This is the essence of disease, no matter what you call it or how it happens. Because only one disease exists, all we need to do is prevent the causes of that one disease. There are only 2 causes of disease: deficiency and toxicity. All you have to do for health is to give your cells what they need and protect them from what they don't need. Cells malfunction only if they suffer from a lack of nutrients, deficiency, toxic damage, toxicity, or a combination of both. Preventing these 2 causes of disease is made possible by your ability to choose how we live our lives. Health depends on the choices we make. These choices fall into 6 categories or pathways. There are 6 pathways between health and disease: nutrition, toxin, psychological, physical, genetic, and medical. The body knows how to take care of itself, provided it has what it needs to do so. Good choices along the 6 pathways provide for the needs of your family just as sunshine, Water and rich soil provide for the needs of a houseplant. These concepts are not complicated. In fact, they are incredibly simple. We just become lost along the way sometimes because we don't have a sound theory of health and disease. Well, now we do. One disease, two causes, six pathways. Applying this theory can restore balance to your cells and support your cell's natural ability to self-regulate and repair damage. Along each of the six pathways, I teach you in this book how to prevent the two causes of disease. Using this knowledge, you can restore health and prevent further sickness. The need to simplify. At the time of my illness, despite my scientific education and background, I probably knew as much or as little about disease as most people. I thought that disease was something that came from germs and from genetic predisposition. I thought disease was something that happened to the unlucky, the starving, or to those who really abuse themselves, such as alcoholics and drug addicts. My physician said that my problems were the result of aging, as opposed to something that I had unknowingly chosen and could choose to reverse. During my recovery process, I realized that I would have been able to prevent my illness if I had understood the causes of disease. I realized that as long as disease remains something mysterious, complicated, and difficult to understand, then only the high priests of medicine, the educated experts we call doctors, would be able to deal with it. What if we could all understand the causes? What if we could all understand what causes disease? Wouldn't we be empowered to prevent disease? Can we actually do that? Can we distill simple truth from this complex mystery? Throughout man's history, great advancements in medicine, throughout man's history, great advancements in science have often come from people who were able to take extraordinarily complex subjects and simplify them. In this chapter, we are trying to simplify the concepts of health and disease. Simplifying disease. Consider this. Rather than thousands of diseases, there is only one disease. Does this sound ridiculous? Probably, but that is because we are conditioned to think of many different diseases rather than recognizing what is common to all disease. The most difficult aspect of this theory is that it requires you to look at health and disease in a completely different way. Using the concept of one disease dramatically simplifies how we perceive disease in general. To simplify disease, we must first have an understanding of what disease is. In order to do that, we need In order to do that, we need a basic understanding of cells. Every plant and animal on Earth is made of cells, the smallest unit of life. Fossil records show that the earliest forms of life were single-celled organisms. Likewise, each human being started as one cell, a single cell encoded with all of the information needed to develop into the vastly complex multi-trillion cell organisms that we are today. Each of us is made of about 75 trillion cells. I've always wondered, just a side note, I've always wondered how they come up with that number. Or any number, like 8 billion people on the planet, right? 75 trillion cells. Do they actually count every single cell that's in the body? I don't know. Maybe it's just a random number, I wonder. Anyways, so I was just wondering. Okay, continue. Not all of these cells are the same. Humans have over 200 different types of cells, nerve cells, blood cells, muscle cells, bone cells, etc., forming many different types of tissues that enable us to eat, breathe, feel, move, think, and reproduce. Together, cells combine to form the building blocks of biological structure and function. All of these cells communicate with each other and rely on these communications in order to keep us alive and well. Healthy cells make healthy tissues, which are highly resistant to disease and physical injury. Unhealthy cells create unhealthy tissues, which are quite susceptible to both disease and injury. What is disease? Each cell must perform specific tasks in order to collaborate effectively with other cells in the body. If all of your cells are healthy, these tasks are well executed and the body functions at optimal level. If all of your cells are healthy, you cannot be sick. If, for any reason, a cell starts to malfunction, it is less able to perform its assigned tasks, which is where problems can begin. When such malfunction occurs in a large enough number of cells to impair the body's ability to self-repair and self-regulate, disease occurs. The scientific term for a cell that is malfunctioning is cytopathy. Cyto referring to cell and pathy to sickness or disease. In fantastically complex as we humans are, the fundamental concept of disease is simple. Disease is the result of a large number of malfunctioning cells, widespread cytopathy. This definition is not fancy or eloquent. It may even seem absurdly simple. However, it is profound, precise, and an irrefutable definition of disease. This definition is so simple that no one, scientist, physician, or layperson, can deny it. This definition provides the unifying theory of health and disease that the modern medical establishment lacks, which is the reason that modern medicine is unable to address the current epidemic of chronic disease. Perhaps you're thinking, but wait, disease is much more complex than that. What about genetic predisposition? What about bacterial viral infection? What about cancer? What about AIDS? What about ... True, many factors may conspire to contributing to the malfunction of our cells and the many different ways in which they can malfunction. In the end, though, cellular malfunction creates the measurable abnormalities that we call disease. Therefore, no matter which cells malfunction or why they malfunction, the malfunction is the one disease. A person cannot be sick unless a large number of cells are malfunctioning. The first steps on the path to disease are taken when, for whatever reason, a single cell begins to malfunction, and then another cell and another. When the number grows large enough, we may begin to notice. We may feel sick along the way, perhaps experiencing a pain here, discomfort there, or lack of energy. By the time your health has deteriorated into a diagnosable chronic disease, no cell may be left in your body that is still functioning optimally. I am astounded when people describe their health problems and then claim that other than this, they are in excellent health. Unfortunately, modern medicine finds itself mired in complexity, confronted with numerous diseases, diagnoses, and treatments. Lost in the midst of thousands of different diseases, each supposedly with its own unique causes, physicians are unable to effectively diminish disease in our society. A simpler and more effective solution is to focus on the process, the one disease, and to ask what causes it. When you understand disease as a process, rather than a thing to be cut out and suppressed, then you can see why surgery and drugs, virtually the only tools of the physician, are limited in what they can do. Two causes of disease. Cellular malfunction is the essence of disease, but why does it happen? Cells can malfunction in a multitude of ways, and the biochemistry of these malfunctions can be exceedingly complex. All malfunctions can be reduced to two causes: deficiency and toxicity. Deficiency means that cells are lacking something that they need in order to function the way they are designed to function. Toxicity means that cells are poisoned by something that inhibits proper function. Either one of these factors, and usually a combination of both, can and will cause disease. One of the great scientific minds of the 20th century, biochemist Dr. Roger Williams, wrote, "Body cells in general die for two reasons. First, because they do not get everything they need. Second, because they get poisoned by something they decidedly do not need." Humans can live long and healthy lives if we do two things right: provide ourselves with all of the nutrients they need and protect ourselves from toxins. To the extent that we can accomplish these tasks well, we can significantly extend the length and the quality of our lives. In the real world, these two tasks are never accomplished perfectly. As a result, cells suffer, we age, the quality of life is diminished, and we die. The variable in this sequence is how fast we allow this to happen. What about other causes of disease, such as genetic inheritance and infections by microorganisms? Yes, genes and germs trigger cellular malfunction, but they do so by causing deficiencies or toxicities, which are always the common denominators of disease. Eliminate these factors and you eliminate disease. For example, consider diseases with a genetic basis, such as ALD, adrenoleukodystrophy. That's a long word. The genetic disease featured in the movie Lorenzo's Oil. People with ALD develop abnormally high levels of very long chain fatty acids, which are molecules that are natural to the body. These fatty acids can build up to levels that are toxic to cells. This toxicity is the result of a genetically caused deficiency of special protein molecules that keep these fatty acid levels within normal limits. Lorenzo's parents compensated for the genetic deficiency by supplementing their son's diet with a combination of oils that help to lower the level of the offending fatty acids, thereby reducing the toxic effect on his body. What caused Lorenzo's disease? Was it genetics? Yes, but for his disease to manifest, his cells had to be deficient and toxic. Deficiency and toxicity are always the common denominators of all disease. The same is true of infections from organisms. Anthrax, for example, makes us sick and kills by producing toxins. Without deficiency and toxicity causing cells to malfunction, there is no disease. What about stress? Hasn't that been proven to cause disease? True, stress is a major factor that contributes to disease. Chronic stress results in an excessive buildup of natural chemicals in the body, which at higher levels become toxic. In addition, stress depletes the body of certain nutrients, resulting in deficiency. Stress is a contributor to disease, but only by expressing itself through the common denominators of all disease, deficiency and toxicity. Deficiency and toxicity, regardless of their cause, increasingly compromise the functioning of cells, making a person steadily more vulnerable to developing a diagnosable disease. By the time you contract a diagnosable disease, whether we're talking about the common cold, allergies, cancer, or heart disease, you have probably been sick for a long time. You have suffered enough cellular damage from deficiency and toxicity that cells throughout your body are malfunctioning. Okay, let me read that again. You have suffered enough cellular damage from deficiency and toxicity that cells throughout your body are malfunctioning. You are sick long before you get sick. By the time symptoms are produced, cellular malfunction has become widespread. Cell-to-cell communications have been disrupted, and the systemic manifestations are the symptoms. Remember that disease does not just randomly happen, like a meteorite falling out of the sky. Health, not disease, is the natural state of human existence. But forgetting this point is easy when we see all the disease around us. That's an interesting picture, isn't it, that he painted just now, because it talks about breaking down, and before the whole system breaks down, the system needs to break down in little pieces here and there, right? Before it becomes too interesting. I was just thinking about the LA fire that's happening right now, and the systemic breakdown as a whole in society. It's not one big piece that collapsed. It's many little pieces that sort of evolved and grew over the years, right? Many decades before the whole system collapse. And we're seeing the system collapsing. Very interesting. So our body is like a micro manifestation of the society, which is a macro manifestation of the disease. Huh? Interesting, eh? All right, symptoms versus the one disease. Our society's current understanding of disease is based on the concept of symptomatology. Symptomatology is about focusing on identifying and categorizing symptoms, in other words, the effects produced by disease. In this manner, doctors supposedly can differentiate one disease from another because the entirety of modern medicine and everything we have ever learned about disease is based on symptomatology. The concept of only one disease may seem unacceptably simple. Actually, the symptomatology concept is a flawed one. I agree. That's Christina talking. I agree. Christina agrees. Symptomatology is based on a fundamental misconception, one held by virtually all medical establishments in Western society. The misconception is that thousands of different diseases exist, each with different symptoms, causes, and treatments. This misconception stems from the many different ways that cells can malfunction, and therefore the thousands of different symptoms can be produced. The modern medical treatment of almost all disease focuses on the management of these symptoms, the effects of the disease, rather than eliminating the causes, which are deficiency and toxicity. People are told to take insulin to manage their blood sugar rather than eliminating their diabetes, or to take diuretics to treat their hypertension rather than normalizing their blood pressure. They are told to have a bypass operation rather than reversing their heart disease, or to undergo chemotherapy rather than healing their cancer. Diagnosis by symptoms is the process by which modern medicine gives each collection of symptoms a particular name. Medicine views symptoms as enemies, and physicians are trained to eliminate them, even if that means aggressively assaulting the body with dangerous toxins, radiation, or invasive surgery. Symptomatology leads to medical profession to look at symptoms individually, organize them into thousands of categories, label them as different diseases, and then prescribe a currently accepted protocol to suppress those symptoms. This approach adds needless complexity, creates massive confusion, and results in an ability to deal with disease in a meaningful way. In truth, each collection of symptoms, each specific disease, is just a different expression of malfunctioning cells. However, with all of our different types of cells and all of the different ways in which each cell can malfunction, the number of possible combinations of symptoms becomes vast. In other words, when cells malfunction, we may feel sick in many different ways. Cells that are malfunctioning because of a vitamin C deficiency exhibit different symptoms than those malfunctioning because of a zinc deficiency. Cells malfunctioning because of lead toxicity exhibit different symptoms from those malfunctioning because of mercury toxicity. Various combinations of deficiencies and toxicities produce a myriad of complex symptoms, thousands of diseases, but the symptoms are not relevant. To solve any problem, you have to address the causes, not the symptoms. Modern medicine, by placing the focus on symptoms, has yet to develop any theory regarding the relationship between health and disease. Medicine looks at these as if they are two different states, while health and disease are really different sides of the same coin in a constantly shifting continuum. Lacking a practical theory, physicians have no framework in which to understand health or how to help patients achieve it, like being lost in a vast jungle without a map or a compass. Narrowly trained, our physicians are taught the art of surgery and the administration of drugs as tools to manage symptoms. If the only tool you have is a hammer, as the saying goes, then every problem looks like a nail. If you go to a conventionally trained physician, then medicine's hammers, surgery, and drugs are what you receive. Unfortunately, these tools are designed to manage and suppress symptoms, not cure disease. For a more meaningful understanding of disease, cellular malfunction, we must consider the health of our cells. Remember that noticeable health problems begin when a large number of cells malfunction. As this happens, important cellular chemicals are not produced, cell-to-cell communications become garbled, and the body ceases to regulate itself properly. Our tissues suffer and noticeable symptoms appear, e.g., allergies, fatigue, aches and pains, colds, flu, depression, anxiety, cancer, or any of thousands of other complaints. Categorizing and suppressing the symptoms of malfunctioning cells does not fix the problem. This approach cannot explain why the problem occurred in the first place, cannot prevent the problem from happening again, and cannot prevent it from appearing elsewhere in the body. The only cure is to restore our cells and tissues to health. What is health? Everybody thinks they know what health is, but people ask to define it. Give you many different answers. In order to define health, perhaps we first should provide the definition of health used in modern medicines. Health is the absence of disease. This medical school lesson is not a very good definition. For medicine to recognize disease, it must be diagnosable. You are not sick until the day the physician can diagnose something. The absence of diagnosable disease is not a good working definition of health. Modern medicine has no way of recognizing or diagnosing disease when your health is in its initial decline. When I was sick and already experiencing disturbing symptoms, my physician pronounced me in excellent health. He had never been taught how to notice and measure my already extensive decline in health. We are considered sick only after the problem has become serious enough to produce symptoms that fit neatly into one of the medicine's disease categories. This way of looking at health is not helpful, productive, or self-empowering. Health is much more than the absence of a diagnosable disease. When your cells are functioning as they should, you have ample adaptive capacity to thrive in our constantly changing environment without ill effects. With properly functioning cells, you have strong resilience to various kinds of stress, physical, chemical, biological, and emotional. You have the ability to make daily repairs to your cells, the ability to build healthy new ones, and the ability to efficiently remove pathogenic microorganisms and toxins from your body. You become an optimally balanced organism with integrated mental and physical equilibrium. Perhaps most important is that achieving good cellular health gives our society the ability to produce healthy offspring. While the above descriptions explain the practical effects of health, they still do not offer a single concrete definition of health. In order to clearly define health as a concept concrete enough to be understood and discussed, let us work with the following definition. Health is the state wherein all cells are functioning optimally. I'll read that again. Health is the state wherein all cells are functioning optimally. Never are all of our cells functioning perfectly, so the challenge is to keep cellular malfunction to a minimum. Even in healthy people, cells are constantly being damaged, dying, and being replaced. Our bodies produce more than 10 million new cells every second as we constantly rebuild our tissues. How healthy are each of these new cells? If we replace 6 cells with 6 cells, we will never recover. As cells die off, are we replacing them with healthy cells or 6 cells? And we will stop here for now. And next week, we will start with chapter 3, continuing with chapter 3, and we'll do part 2. All right, I hope you enjoyed that, and we'll continue our book club next week. In the meantime, stay safe out there, and I hope you guys all have a great week. Okay, bye-bye now.